project: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjoining. So this is how the 5 stages. Is it clear, sir? Understood?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. So let us now understand about the PMO. Anybody have an understanding about the PMO? Maybe most of the organizations, they have the PMO. Do you have any understanding of the PMO? What is the PMO? Project Management Office. This is the Project Management Office. Any idea about? Okay. The Project Management Office it is nothing but to write down the keywords. It is central governing department. It is central governing department. In an organization, there may be multiple projects are there. In organization, there may be multiple teams, multiple projects are going on. So there must be certain governance among the different projects. The uniform practices we have to adopt among the entire organization for all the projects. So all the projects have to follow certain uniform practices. Uniform governance must be there. So uniform templates are the policy, procedures, guidelines, and operating procedures. All these things, a standard approach must be there to follow everybody uniformly. Okay. So therefore, there is a central department is there. That PMO is nothing but central governing department. The PMO is, again, I'm repeating the keywords. Many times keywords I'm used to repeat. Please start writing. That will be helping you a lot in the exam. Okay. And therefore, the PMO, as I told you, it is central governing department. Okay. Centrally, the department is there that is ensuring that all the projects are following uniform practices. Okay. And certain times they also develop the certain policy procedure they develop, so that they ensure that all the projects are following these policy procedures, guidelines, and templates and governance. Okay. So that is how the PMO. And
A
PMO,
project management
yeah.
office PMO is an organizational structure that standardizes the project related governance processes and facilitates the sharing of resources, methodologies, tools, and techniques. The responsibilities of a PMO can range from providing project management support functions to the direct management of one or more projects. There are several types of PMOs in organizations. Each type varies in the degree of control and influence it has on projects within the organization, such as supportive type of PMO. Supportive PMOs provide a consultative role to projects by supplying templates, best practices, training, access to information, and lessons learned from other projects. This type of PMO serves as a project repository. The degree of control provided by the PMO is low. Controlling type of PMO. Controlling PMOs provide support and require compliance through various means. The degree of control provided by the PMO is moderate. Compliance may involve adoption of project management frameworks or methodologies, use of specific templates, forms, and tools, and conformance to governance frameworks. Directive type of PMO. Directive PMOs take control of the projects by directly managing the projects. Project managers are assigned by and report to the PMO. The degree of control provided by the PMO is high.
Okay. As I told you, the PMO is a central governing department, and it ensures that all the projects following uniform practices. There are 3 types of PMOs are there. One is about the directive PMO, the bottom one. The directive PMO is they have more of the controlling authority, means more of the authoritative department, and they can give the directions, instructions, and projects has to follow. Okay, because this is directly they're managing the projects. They're directly managing the projects. So therefore, they used to give the instructions, guidelines, and they frame certain policy procedures and enforces their project to follow them uniformly. Okay, and they have the pretty good authority also. And then second one is the middle one is about the controlling PMO. In the controlling PMO, they ensure that the projects are following uniform practices. Therefore, they have the controlling, means they take the reports They take the reports from each of the project, and they ensure that projects are following certain uniform practices. If any deviations are there, they make the instruction for the corrective actions and preventive actions, and I think they guide them. And also audit also takes place. The audit also done by the controlling PMO. Okay, they time to time go to the projects, they audit the projects. Then comes to the supportive PMO. Supportive PMO not having much of the authority, but only they give the provide the support. The support related to, for example, any of the project wants certain documents, certain technical related informations, or certain commercial information, financial informations, or from the previous projects, some informations are required. All those things they provide the support, and the training support also they will provide. Okay. And the support to PMO, in fact, the PMO is also like a central library. This is also a keyword. Please write down. PMO is also like a central library. Central library means centrally all the documents, information, data is centrally available with the PMO. And the projects can take that from the library, any of the informations. Those are centrally available in the PMO. Not only for your project, but various other projects in your organization. And also from previous projects, also some documents, whatever you required, these are centrally available with the PMO from the previous project also. For example, from the previous project, you wanted certain technical documents, or from the previous project, you wanted certain the vendor related information, or the vendor list, or the some stakeholders list you wanted. So those things are available centrally with the PMO, that is support to PMO. They give the support to you. Whenever you want certain information, they will provide that information. So the PMO is also like a central library. In conclusion, PMO is a central governing department, and also it is a central library. Okay. Good.
A couple of questions
Yes.
in the previous slide, please.
Yeah. Tell me.
So, is it mandatory to have PMOs in sitting within the organization, or is it something optional or up to the organization to set it up?
Okay. Actually, whatever all we are talking as per the PM book, and PM book is the best practices. And PM book, some of the practices, all are not mandatory, but based on your own adoption, your own organization's adoption, you can take or not to take it, your choice. Some organizations they have, the larger organizations, when they have multiple projects are there, then definitely there must be need for the uniform practices. So every project they're doing their own, like, then there's a cacophonous, like will be lot of deviations will be there. Then the difficult to monitor, coordinate, and the means the results also to get very difficult, because somebody has to report to the top management also. This is all the projects are happening, and the reports also everybody reporting in the different format. Then how the management can understand top management? So therefore, the PMO is that there the importance of the PMO. They ensure all the processes are following uniform practices, uniform template, procedures, guidelines they're following. So that when the reporting also goes to the management, those are in a uniform style. So the management easily can understand. Okay. Is it clear, sir?
Thank you. Yeah, clear. And the other question that I have is from
Yes,
the
sir.
three types of PMOs that are there, supportive, controlling, and directive. Does it mean that controlling PMO also has an intersection with supportive PMO, and directive PMO has intersection with controlling and supportive PMO?
Actually, these are the different type, means the department, what level of authority they have. In your organization, for example, different projects are there. Your management set up a PMO, so that they have to ensure all the projects are following uniform practices. And certain times the PMO are not given much of the authority, just like a supportive PMO. Supportive PMO doesn't have much of the authority, but just they provide the support in terms of the some information, whatever they required, as and when required by the projects, they will provide. Similarly, some training requirements are there, they will provide. Only to that extent, the supportive role. Controlling role, they take from each of the project, they take the reports also, maybe the review meeting reports and project progress reports, like weekly, maybe monthly or fortnightly, as per the fixed period. They always take the reports and they monitor whether the projects are performing as per the requirement or not, whether projects are following certain procedures, all the government sorry, the company policy procedures or not. They monitor it. And also certain times they do the audit also, that is the controlling. And the directive, they have the complete authority over the projects, and they give the directions, instructions, and they closely monitor it, closely manage it. Okay, that is the directive. And these, either of these things, your management can adopt. And what type of authority they provided your management to the PMO, accordingly the results will be there. The activities will be there accordingly. Okay.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Sir, who decides which PMO has to be in place? Like, who will decide?
Your top management, sir. Your top management generally involving with your CFOs or CEOs, your MD, chairman, or the top management. They decide it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. They decide and they make the PMO. PMO is some senior people generally involved. If that is the director role, generally some very senior people involved. Very senior VP levels and senior VP levels like that, they involve in the direct to PMOs. Support to PMO, they need not be very seniors, because only support has to be provided there. So there may be some middle management people also may be there in the support. But when the management decided we want the very controlling authority should be there with this direct to PMOs, complete authority must be there. And they have to ensure that everybody following uniformly, and directions has to be given from centrally from one unit, that is the PMO. Then the senior people will be involved. Okay, very senior people, in fact.
Understood. From the leadership team. Okay.
Yeah, very top leadership team. Okay, good. So this is to ensure that all the projects are following uniformly certain practices. Okay, that is the purpose of it. Okay. There is a good governance. And when we talk this, some means many of the things you are reading in the as per the PM book, these are from the PM book. And these are the good practices. These good practices all are not mandatory, but if you follow it is good governance, so that project success rate will increase. Okay, good. So now let us understand progressive elaboration. Progressive elaboration means whenever we are starting any of the project, we are doing certain planning, but plannings are iteratively getting updated. The plans are iteratively gets updated. Because at the early stages, we don't have the complete information. At the early stages, we may not have the complete information. So as and when we are getting additional information, based on that, the plans are get updated. Some simple example I'll tell you. Suppose you want to construct a house. For construction of a house, you may be taking certain plan and architectural design. But architectural design and plans are very broad outlines, very broader plans. But when you go to construct really in the ground, suppose the foundation, for the foundation also plan has to be done. And for the foundation, first you have to understand about the soil. The soil testing has to be done to understand the soil, whether soft soil or the hard soil. According the design has to change. If it's soft soil, the designs are different, and hard soil, the designs are different. So those are more detailed drawings and engineering drawings and engineering designs we do as and when additional informations are available. Originally, that additional information about the soil testing, the results are not there. But when you are executing, those additional information used to come, then you are updating the plan. Okay. So that type of updation of plan in iterative fashion is called as a progressive elaboration. Means as we are progressing in the project, as and when additional information we are getting and plans are gets updated. Okay. So as per the PM book, the definition is progressive elaboration involves continuously improving and detailing a plan as more detailed and specific information and more accurate estimates becomes available. Means as and when the informations are available, additional informations, we are updating the plan. That's the meaning of it. Okay. So this is the progressive elaboration. Under the progressive elaboration, there are two types are there. One is the prototype. There are two types. One is the prototype. Prototype means when you want to develop a new car, for example, a new car you want to develop. First, what you are doing, you are making the complete plan, engineering planning you are doing. As per that, you have to make a certain plan, means a sample version. First, you're doing a model car, a sample car. On the sample car, we are doing all the testing and inspections and getting the feedback. Based on that, we are iteratively improving. It's not done in one instant. Once you do the planning, then production and the launching in the market, no, nobody will do. A lot of risk is involved. So what they do first, we do the sample version. The sample version we call it a prototype. The sample version we call it a prototype. Okay. The prototype you do a model car. Then we do all the testing inspections and get the feedback. Based on that, our plans gets updated. Then based on the updated plan, again we do, and like the n number of times we do, and everything is satisfied, then only we are going to launch the new car. Okay. So like this, we are doing iterative, the plans are been updated. That's called as a prototype. This sample version. Okay. And another progressive elaboration, another type of progressive elaboration is the rolling wave planning. Another is called rolling wave planning. In the rolling wave planning, you see how the sea waves are going on like this. Rolling wave, we call it, means at the early stages, we do the early stages of the project, we do more detail and the planning, but overall other phases at the high level we do. Example I'll show you. So this is your project. This is the total is the entire the timeline, and at the early stage we do the overall the broad plan, high level planning. This is our what the high level planning. Then entire project we are dividing into different phases. The phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, like that. And initial phases, we are doing more detail. Initial phases, we are doing more detail. And other phases at a high level. These are at high level, the phases we have done the planning. And as we are moving forward, means we are progressing, then we are doing others also in more detail, like this. Okay. So this type of planning we call a rolling wave planning. Means early stages of the project we do, early stages of the early phases of the project we do more detail, and other phases at a high level. Okay. And as we are progressing, other levels also we do in more detail and progressing, and accordingly we are executing. Okay. So these are called as a planning stages. So these are.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yes.
So we're talking about progressive elaboration, right? Is progressive elaboration and program increment the same?
Pardon, sir?
Like program increment, yeah, PA planning. It says, would you be able to quickly go back to the previous slide?
Elaborative.
Thank you, Harish. Even I had the same question in my mind. It looks more of an agile approach.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
This
is the progressive elaboration.
Correct. So I just wanted to know if
agile,
progressive.
Agile is entirely different type of approach we are doing. That is an iterative we are doing, iterative planning we are doing. But these may not be so detailed with each of the small iteration, small work wise. This is for the entire project we are talking as a whole. And definitely when I come to the predictive, means waterfall methodology and agile approach, then I will explain you what is an agile and agile, how we do the iterative planning, because planning is each of the sprint wise we do the planning. And that I will explain you when I come to there. But this is broadly to make you understand that many times any project you take, it is a waterfall methodology or it's an agile methodology, what are the methods you take, many times what happens at the early stages, we don't have the complete informations. So therefore, at the early stages, we do the overall project at a high level, the planning will do. And as and when additional informations are available, iteratively, we are improving the plan. Okay, that is the concept here. Okay. When I come to there for the integrate means this iterative planning, that is in the sprint wise, that I will tell you when I come to the agile framework. Agile also one of the domain. In the first day I shown to you, there are four domains are there. Fundamentals. Today we are going to still on the fundamentals. That's a larger subject. Then the predictive methodology, then agile, then about the business analysis. These are the four domains we have. So definitely we'll discuss at the agile also once I come there. Okay.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Sorry.
Good. Good. So that is what the rolling wave planning. Okay. Now let us go with the phase gate. Let us understand what is the phase gate or the kill point. Let us understand. Okay. Every project have a different phases, I told you. And once the phases are complete, generally there's a review meetings. In the review meeting, the management decides whether to continue with the project or to discontinue the project based on the various factors. Maybe funds are available or not. Maybe certain times customer may not be requiring further the project, or certain times the environment is not conducive to proceed with the project. Because in the COVID period, for example, in the COVID period, because of the government lockdowns, logistics problems, the projects are not going to happen. So therefore, the management calls off the projects. They can't do the project, so they're stopping the project. They're closing the project. So this phase gate are the kill point, or the stage gate also we call it. Stage gate or phase gate, kill point, one and the same meaning. That means at this review meeting, the management will decide how the project is progressing, whether it is feasible to proceed further or not, and they take the decision to continue with the project or not to continue with the project, or they close the project. So therefore, this is called as a phase gate or the kill point or the stage gate. This is the decision point. Decision point about the continuation of the project or not to continue with the project. So now let us have some question answers.
Kill point. See.
It is of the kill point. Very good. If this is about the A, evaluate the project has met the objectives and agree on the phase closure. Because many times, as I told, these review meetings, there the decision takes place whether to continue with the project or not to continue, or the closing the project. That's the review meetings. So here is the correct answer. So now let us understand, for every project we have some risk factors are there, and also some issues are there, some assumptions are there, some constraints also we do. We have the constraint, the limitations. Okay. So let us understand about what is the risk. What is the risk? Risk is a uncertain event. Risk is a uncertain event. Just a minute. Why this is not going? Just a minute. Yeah. Yeah. So the risk is a uncertain event. It is a future uncertain event. It may happen, may not happen. For example, the meteorological department, the weatherman, they forecast, they predict that today there will be heavy rains. But to your surprise, many times the rains may not at all happens any rains. Because they made a prediction for the future. Future is always uncertain. It may happen, may not happen. Maybe they predicted that 90% probability of the heavy rains, but still there is a 10% there may not be any rains. And many times you are experiencing also like this. Okay. But what are the best of the best technologies are available also, the future remains always uncertain. There is certain chances of not happening also. May happen, may not happen also. So therefore, that is the risk we call it. And the risk is there are generally, when you take the risk is always we think that there is a negative impact or the negative adverse impact, but need not be always. Many times what happens, for example, you are investing in a share market. You're taking the risk. When you're investing in share market, you are taking the risk. If the prices are going up, then you are benefited. And therefore, it is called a positive risk. That is an opportunity for you. You are benefited. That is a positive risk. On the other hand, when the prices are coming down and adversely it is impact you, negative impact. So therefore, it is called a negative risk. So the risks are two types, positive risk and negative risk. Okay. And as I told you, it may happen, may not happen. When it happens, and the impact on the project objective, either positive or negative impact will be there. Okay. Generally, the objectives we are taking into consideration about the scope, about the schedule, cost, and quality, and other performances. These are the certain times we take as the objectives. Okay. Whether we are able to complete the project within the given scope or not, within the timelines, within the budget, as per the quality norms or the standards, that is the performance. So risk may affect these things. Risk may have an impact on our project objectives, either positive impact or the negative impact. Okay. So that is about the risk. Suppose in your construction project, there is a heavy rains are happen, and a lot of the materials and other thing we lost. So that is affecting negatively for our project, and also some delays also happens. Delay happened, and some materials to be lost. So that's the cost impact. There's a cost impact as well as the delay happened. So these are the negative impact.
Cyber.
Happens. Hello. Anybody want? Hello. 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 Please mute, sir. Please mute. If you are talking privately or something else, please mute. Keep the mute in condition. So whenever you want to discuss with the subject, that is always open. But otherwise, keep in a mute. So it will not disturb to others. So good. So I'm talking about the heavy rains happens. So you lost the certain materials. So that the cost impact is there. And delay also happened. So the schedule impact is there. Okay. These are negative impacts, we call it. On the other hand, for example, the prices have come down for some of the materials cost. The prices have come down. So you are benefited. The cement prices, steel prices, like example, those have come down. So that is an advantage for you. There's a positive impact. Okay. And similarly, the laborers are working hard and high productivity is there. And as a result, they, instead of making the project completion within 6 months, they completed within 5 months. The time also impacted, you are benefited. Those are positive impacts. Okay. So every project have a risk, as I told you. Either it has a positive or negative impact on the project objectives. Then comes to the issue. Okay. Issue means something already happened. Issue means something already happened. Project risk is always about the futuristic. Risk is always futuristic, but issue is present in nature. Something already happened and those are present in nature. Suppose, for example, in a project, there's a union leaders also maybe that labor unions, and the labor unions assume they gave a notice to the project management and that they're going for the strike in the next month. When they're going for the strike in the next month, there's a risk. Risk is a future. Next month they're talking, the future there is a risk is there. Okay, if they go for the strike. So as I told you, the futuristic. But example, the laborers are already started the strike. They're already in the strike itself. Then that is called an issue. Issues are always present in nature, and also they're the negative impact, always negative impact. Issues are always negative impact, whereas the project risks are either positive or negative impacts. But the issues are always negative impact. Okay. Now let us go for the assumption. As I told you, every project has certain assumptions at the time of the feasibility studies. For example, whenever you're doing the project proposals, we make certain assumptions. Assumptions like funds are available, the technology is available, the resources are capable of handling the project. These are assumptions. Similarly, when we taking the funding from any of the loans we are taking for the project funding, the bank interest, suppose that 12% or 10% is a assumption. Assumption as per that time, it may be true. Assumptions are true generally at the time of taking the assumption, but later it may not be true always. At the time of making the proposals, the interest rate may be 10% assume, the bank interest rate for your funding, that 10%. But when you are starting the project execution, the interest rate may go up. It may happen 12%, 15% also can happen. Okay. So therefore, assumptions are believed to be true at the time of taking the assumption, but later it may not be always remain true. Okay. So those are assumptions. If the assumption fails, then project also have a negative impact. So about the assumption that interest rate, you assumed it's 10%, but during execution it went to 15%. So the assumption failed, then it is impacted negatively for your project. Okay. Similarly, you assume that in a pharmaceutical company, for example, you are manufacturing the vaccines, and vaccines, the assumption is during the entire from the manufacturing to the usage, you have to maintain certain condition, that temperature condition below say 10 degrees centigrade. Then only that will work. So you have made an assumption throughout its usage and life, the temperatures will be at the below 10 degrees centigrade only. But in case that assumption fails, either in the transit or in the hospital or somewhere it is storing, at the stage the temperature is not maintained, that assumption fails, then there is a negative impact on the patient. Okay. So there is an assumption. Then we have a constraint. Constraint means limitation. Constraints mean limitations. Like we already discussed, there are 6 constraints are there. Those things we discussed yesterday: scope, time, cost, quality, risk, and resources. These are the 6 constraints. These are the interdependent constraints. Okay. Then let us understand about the enterprise environmental factors. These are the factors it's affecting our project. These are the factors affecting our project. Okay. So there is internal factors and also there are certain external factors. The internal factors like our organization culture, our organization structure. You may have a certain organization structure like that who is reporting to whom. You are reporting to your boss, and under you there may be certain other subordinates or some of the other team members are reporting to you. Like this, it's called the organization structure. So there's a reporting structure. So the organization structure or the infrastructures are the geographical locations of your projects, or your offices, or your factories and other units. And resource availability, employee availability, are their capabilities, or that information, project management information systems. These are all called as the internal environmental factors. If any of these factors are changing, then definitely it will affect your project. Any of the internal factors is changing, external also if changing, it will affect your project. First, we are discussing the internal factors. Internal factors also, one of the factor is a PMIS. PMIS means project management information system. Project management information system, PMIS. Okay, that system include all type of systems what you are using in your organization, including software systems. Like for example, even a simple like we take MS Office. In MS Office, you may be using for the Word, the Excel, then PowerPoints, all these things you are using. This also comes under the PMIS. Means what are these systems you are using comes under the PMIS. Okay, and that includes about the special softwares like Primavera, Jira, or the MS Project, Monday.com. These are all certain means these are the certain softwares specifically for the project related softwares. And these are whatever you're using, that is also comes under the PMIS. And especially for the configuration management and also the work authorization system, these also part of the your internal the environmental factors. Okay, comes under the PMIS only. Okay, and what is the configuration management? Later I will inform you. The work authorization system and configuration management, later I will inform you. Okay. Now comes to the external environmental factors. External environmental factors includes the market conditions, the political, social, technological, environmental, legal. All these things are called as a outside your organization. So these are external environmental factors. Government restrictions, those are legal related. Okay, or the government regulations, or certain outside your organization, some quality standards and other thing fixed by some associations, some standard association where you are a member of it, and it's mandatory you have to follow these things. So those things also will affect your project. So in essence, the enterprise environmental factors, there are two factors, are the internal and external. All these factors affect your project. Okay. So therefore, you have to understand what is environmental factors also for any of the project. Now the next is about the OPA. OPAs are always internal to us. OPAs are always internal to us. So these are organizational process assets. There are two types of assets are there. One is about our company policy, procedure, guidelines, templates, and some standard operating procedures are there. These are called as the policy procedure related OPAs. And the second type of OPAs are knowledge repository or the corporate knowledge base. Like we have a certain previous project we have done, and from the previous project we have a historical data as the informations are there. All the historical informations are the lessons learned, are the risk register, or stakeholder register from the previous project. We have the documents. So these also knowledge for us, and these we can use for the new project also. So therefore, the OPS also will affect our projects about the availability of the previous project documents, or we have to follow certain guidelines of the company, the policy procedures of the company we have to follow. Any changes of the company policy procedure are there, that also affects our project. So the OPS also affect our projects. Okay. Now let us do some exercise. You have to select three options, three best options you have to select. Yes, sir. Hmm. Who will explain? Anybody? Who will explain, sir? Now, what are the options? You must have certain logic and understanding, no? You please speak out. OPS, always I told you, these are internal to us. Our own company, policy procedure guidelines, and also our own company's historical documents. These are all our own company. Again, I'm repeating, OPS are all always our own company related activities, means our policy procedure and previous documents, the knowledge repository.
Though I selected A, B, and D, just wondering, should it be A, C, and D?
And that is why you just think it out, no? Very simple. This is common sense. All there is nothing like very. I mean, technically we have to discuss and all thing. Nothing great, no.
You
I
said
told you again.
internal.
I told repeatedly internal,
so-
internal, and
So
how the
industry
industry
standards
can.
should not
Industry is
matter
not
here.
internal.
Naturally, na madam. Yes, sir. This is what I am expecting. So always I am repeating. OPS are always internal, internal, internal. So that is the key word. So that is where I want to catch these things. There's nothing great actually. Very simple, common sense only. Concept you know that OPS are internal, and based on that you can understand industry standards are always outside your industry standard, global standards. So therefore, those are outside your organization. So therefore, once that B is eliminated, other three are true. Okay, good. So like these questions are not so difficult actually. PMI, this PMI certificate exams, these are not so difficult exams. Especially this CAPM is a very foundation course, not so difficult, but only little bit understanding of the tricky questions will be there. They have to understand the concept. And if you know the concept clearly and the keywords you are understanding, easily you can answer and pass the exam. Okay, good. So let us have this type of things because this is again recapitulating the lessons learned.
First one is kill point.
Yeah.
Just click on.
The kill point.
Plans, policies. Last one is progressive elaboration. Oh, sorry, I should come only in order, is it? Okay.
You know, one by one, a B table only, each of
Okay,
the
I mean,
item of the B table, let us go about.
yeah, I'm just
Yeah, okay.
whatever
These
I
are
know,
about
I'm
the
just trying to
company's,
answer.
about your company's policy, procedure, guidelines,
Yeah.
and knowledge base, and all these things are OPS. This type, always I'm making this type of tables because it is recapitulate, like again refreshing, and with keywords.
Okay. Third one is PMO.
One is PMO.
Okay, this is PMO, very good.
EEF.
Fourth one is EEF.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
EF,
Yeah.
okay, very good.
Yeah, from what is to.
OPM.
Fifth one is OPM. Yeah.
Alignment, project alignment,
And
align the
sixth one
project
is
and
progressive elaboration.
yeah, progressive elaboration. Very good, very good. So like this, please start writing the keywords, sir. That is my advice.
Sure.
So as I told you, this is not so difficult exam, but you should be little bit attentive to understand the content and the context, and accordingly you have to select the options. Okay.
Mhm.
So I used to tell about the 4 C's: content, contest, concept, common sense. These are 4 C's. For passing the exam, these are the mantra like 4C
Oh,
mantra.
I thought it was defined in PMI or somewhere. Okay.
No. Okay, it is my own. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. This 4C means, as I told you, any question is there, read the content carefully. Because in the content itself, many times certain confusing element deliberately they put in. Because I'm also one of the contributor for the question preparations, and lot of questions we generate, and I used to send, and they put in the testing. Once the test is passed, then it goes into the final year, that question bank. Okay. So generally we create deliberately certain confusing element. So read the content carefully and understand the context, in which context you are discussing. The context you have to understand, the scenario, the situation. That's the context. Then of course you have to apply your your concept and apply your common sense also. Certain times common sense not so great, like even though many times the concept is known, common sense also works very well. Simple tips and techniques also, in some other questions I'll tell you how the common sense also works very well. You can easily can answer. So these are the 4 C's. If you understand the 4 C's, definitely pass the exam. Not so great. Okay. So let us move further. In a project, there's a different life cycle, as I told you, based on the processes. There's the initiation stage, then this is that planning stage, then it's the execution, then it's a closing stage. Okay. Monitoring happens throughout the project life cycle. So we are not specially as mentioning as a phase, but otherwise it happens throughout the project life cycle. So at the early stages, initiation stages, starting of the project, that stages, this cost and the staffing levels are very low. The cost and staffing levels are very low, very low. Okay. And once we comes to the planning stage, it's gradually grows on. It gradually grows on in the planning stage. More of the staffing and cost also incurs. And the execution stage, it very fast grows, and it is at it reaches to the peak. It reaches to the peak, the staffing and the cost levels. And later on, it falls down drastically. You see, falls down very fast in the closing stage. So this is general. Most of the project happens like this. And the another aspect is cost of change and risk and uncertainty. Cost of change at the early stage of the project, if any changes you are doing, the cost is less. And as the project is progressing, then cost will grow up. Example, I'll tell you. For example, you are going for a construction of a house. For the construction house, early stages, we have your architectural design and the plans and other details are you have. As per the plan, you have to execute. Okay. So if any you want any changes, because in the building of a house, many times your spouse may have a separate requirements or some other changes wanted from the plan. Original plan, we're not going always. Even though there's a plan is there, many times some changes are incurred. Some happens as per our requirements. So your children also may have certain preferences. They want certain changes. So if you are adopting the changes before the construction, then the cost will be less. If you're adopting the changes in the plan or in the designs and all thing at the early stages, the cost will be less. But suppose already you're constructed, for example, you have made a paints also for the wall paints you are done, and your children has come, no papa, no mommy, it is not good. This I don't like. You want to change the paint. Then already you're done the painting, wall painting. Then again you have to do the recoat as per the new colors and all thing you have to do. Additional cost is involved. So the cost is increased. Yeah, had it been before the painting, the changes, what are the colors and all thing you have decided, then the cost will be less. Otherwise, the cost will go up. Okay, that is the meaning of it. Very simple common sense. So early stages, any changes are there, the cost will be less. But later stages, if any changes are there, the cost will be very high. Okay, this is what the cost of change. Then comes to the risk and uncertainty. Risk and uncertainty in the early stages, because many things are unknown, many things you are experimenting. Like the first, we are starting with the project, unknown factors are many. So therefore, the risk and uncertainties are very high at the early stages. And as we are progressing and doing some project works, then the risk and uncertainty gradually it comes down. And at the end of the project is completed, it may go off. Okay. So like this, risk and uncertainties are like this comes down, but cost of change is increases as the project is progressing. Okay. Now let us understand about the project governance. As I told you, every project needs certain good governance. If the good governance is there, there's a direct correlation about the success. Means project having the good governance, the success rate is very high. The success rate is very high. PMI publishes Pulse of the Profession. PMI publishes Pulse of the Profession every year. As per the Pulse of Profession, so please, mute, madam. Please mute. Okay, good. So, as per the Pulse of the Profession, they found that correlation about the good governance and the project success. And good governance is there, project success rate is very high. So therefore, what is the good governance means? If we are following certain good practices, we are putting certain documented practices, the policy procedure documents are created, and we are following rigorously. The roles and responsibilities are defined, and the authority levels also well defined. Accordingly, we are taking the approvals and other thing, our document signing, and we are involving the people. Collective decisions making we are doing, and ethical practices we are following. So these are all good governance. If the good governance is there, the project rate, the success rate will be very high. So let us understand what are those good governance framework, like policy procedure guidelines, the functions and processes, policy procedure guidelines, efficiencies, risk and the issues, and these responses also be well defined. Or beforehand, we have identified the risk. For that, we have made a mitigation plans. And the responsibility roles and responsibility also accountability and other things are well defined. And we are transparent, taking the consensus, the opinions, or the decisions, collective decision making. Okay, and also meetings and all things are engaging in a timely, like a periodic, as per the schedules, and ethics and the ground rules we are following, and stakeholders engagement, participation, and inclusiveness, and good leadership. Our social responsibilities also we are fulfilling. So these are certain good governance practices. And these good governance practices are there, then project success will be very high. Okay. Then the project life cycle already I discussed with you. Project life cycle is, yesterday I told you, we have a different phases in a project. Phases are the collection of the logically related project activities. Those are called phases. And from the starting of the project till the end of the project, the progression of these phases we call as a project life cycle. From the starting of the project till the end of the project, the progression of the phases are called as a project life cycle. And the progression, the phases may be certain times in a series or when sequential, certain times in parallel. Okay, different projects have a different phases that I told you yesterday. The software project have different phases, and the civil infrastructure project has a different phases. Okay. Then based on the development approach, what is the development approach? I'll tell you. Development approach means we have a different phases in a project, I told you. And in some of the phases, we create something new. In some of the phases, we create something new, either new product or the new services, we create it. Or like a new software, we create it in some of the phases. Those phases we call as the development phases. Those phases we call development phases. And the approach for the development phases differs based on the different situations. the approach for the developing the development phases differs based on the different situations. That situations may be type of industry, or the type of the customer's requirement, or the risk factors, or the uncertainties, or industry practices, or certain external dependencies, or environmental factors. This may change. Okay, means we have a different approaches are there based on the development approach. Means development approach, as I told you, each of the phase we are developing certain new product or services, and that approach for this development of the new product or services based on the certain factors like industry, type of industry, or the type of that scope related uncertainties, or the risk factors, or the customers requirements, or certain industry practices, or certain external factors. This depends. Okay. So accordingly, if you go based on the development approach, the projects can be divided into 5 different life cycles. Okay. Now, based on the development approach, we have a 5 different project phases are there, life cycles are there. Okay. First is of the predictive life cycle. Predictive life cycle, also called as a waterfall methodology. Predictive life cycle follows the waterfall methodology. In the predictive life cycle, the scope is well defined. In the predictive life cycle, please write down the keywords. Those are very important. The key characteristics I'm calling about. So the predictive life cycle, the key characteristics are the scope is well defined. Based on the scope only, we estimate schedule, cost, and the resource requirements. And accordingly, we develop the plan for the entire project. We develop the plan for the entire project. And as per the plan, we execute. So therefore, the predictive life cycle is also called as a plan-driven approach. Because as per the plan has to be done at the early stages itself. For the entire project, the plan has to be done. And as per the plan, we have to execute. So therefore, it is called as a plan-driven approach. Okay. And we following very rigid approach, the systematic step-by-step approach that is called waterfall approach. And after the project is completed, one-time delivery we are making at the end of the project, and then end of the project, end of the phase. One-time delivery we are making. Okay, that is the predictive life cycle. Then comes the iterative life cycle. In the iterative life cycle, the scope is uncertain. Very frequently, some changes are there. Frequently, we are taking the feedback from the customer. Based on the feedback, we are making the corrections or refinements and improvements. And all the correction improvements have been done, then one-time delivery at the end of the project or the phase. Okay. Means in both the predictive and iterative life cycles, one-time delivery. In the predictive life cycle, the scope is very well defined, whereas the iterative life cycle, the scope is uncertain. Okay. Now comes to the incremental life cycle. In the incremental life cycle, small means early, faster, and continuous deliveries we are making. Early delivery, faster delivery, continuous delivery, and frequent deliveries we are making. Though the deliveries are part deliveries, it's not like a full complete project delivery, but part deliveries, small deliveries, incremental deliveries. Okay, that's called incremental life cycle, because the customer wanted incremental small deliveries. Even the small deliveries we are making, those things customer can put into use. So therefore, it is a benefit for him, some value for him. So customer is happy and satisfied. Okay, that is the incremental life cycle. Now comes to the adaptive life cycle or agile life cycle. In the adaptive and agile is one and the same, and in this life cycle, it is a combination of the iterative and incremental life cycles. Both the combination of these two life cycles called as a agile life cycle. Agile life cycle, the scope is uncertain. Very frequently, we are taking the feedback from the customer. Based on the feedback, we are making the iteratively improvements. Then also we are making the early deliveries. faster deliveries, and frequent deliveries of small incremental deliveries. So both the combination of the characteristics of the iterative and the incremental life cycles are combined. It's called adaptive life cycle or the agile life cycle. Okay. Now comes to the hybrid life cycle. In the hybrid life cycle, is the combination of the predictive plus adaptive. Predictive means that the waterfall methodology plus agile. Both the methods are adapted, combined. It's called as a hybrid. Means some part of the project we do as per the predictive life cycle, some part of the project we do as per the agile life cycle. Okay. So that is about the hybrid. Now comes to the examples of all the 5 life cycles. Some examples I'll tell you. Predictive life cycle examples are all the traditional projects like construction of a house, construction of a building, construction of a roads, construction of bridges, flyovers, or construction of industrial plants. We generally follow predictive life cycle. In the predictive life cycle, as I told you, the scope is well defined. Based on the scope, we are making the plan, then accordingly we are making the execution. So those are predictive life cycle is plan driven approach. And at the end of the project or the phase, one-time delivery. These are the key characteristics. And the examples, as I told you, most of the physical development projects like construction of house, roads, or the flyovers, or the industrial plants, these generally we follow the predictive life cycle. All the traditional projects, we follow the predictive life cycle approach. Okay. Now comes to the iterative life cycle. In the iterative life cycle, example I'll take pharmaceutical industry. In the pharmaceutical industry, suppose the vaccines they're developing, they're making a lot of research and development, and they're coming up with some new compound, the new formulation, and then they're making the testing. Each time they make the experiment. In the research, what they do, they make the experiment. In the experiment, they make certain product and they test it and they take the feedback. Based on the feedback, they make the corrections, improvements, and again they test it. Like n number of times that experiments they do, they're making something and making the testing or the means experiment, and then they're taking the feedback, improving, again they make testing, like n number of iterations they do the things. Then finally, once the product is acceptable, product is come out, they all the tests and all things are very successful, then they will launch. That is what the delivery is one time. Okay. So that is about the iterative life cycle. Incremental life cycle, suppose your project is, for example, the construction of a optical fiber cable laying of 100 kilometers. 100 kilometers of the optical fiber cable laying is your project. If you follow the predictive life cycle approach, the project may take the 2 years because it is 100 kilometers. It may take 2 years, assume. But the customer is not interested to wait for the 2 years. He wants early deliveries. Even the small part deliveries also acceptable to him, but he wants early and faster deliveries. Then what you are doing? Suppose you are constructed the cable laying is say is 10 kilometers. You are making the first incremental delivery, and that incremental delivery is accepted by the customer, and he is putting into use. After another 10 kilometers, again you are delivering another delivery, second delivery. 10 kilometers is not a full 100 kilometers, but each time 10 kilometers like you are delivering. Small deliveries you are making, but early and faster deliveries you are making. So the customer, whatever your small delivery you are making, he is able to put into use. So therefore, it is a value for him. It is a customer is happy and satisfied. So that is about the incremental life cycle. Agile life cycle, most of the software companies, IT industry, they follow the agile approach. Okay. And in agile approach, as I told you, the scope is uncertain, and very frequent we are taking the feedback from the customer. Based on the feedback, we are developing small works, and those like in a sprint you are doing, or the iteration, and small works, whatever you are doing, we are showing to the customer and taking the feedback. Based on the feedback, we are making the corrections, and all the corrections are over, then we are going to deliver with the small incremental delivery. Like every time, small deliveries we are making. That is how both the iterative approach as well as the incremental approach we are following in the agile concept. Okay. Hybrid, one example I'll tell you. In FIBA World Cup, where it happened, sir? Recent FIBA World Cup. Anybody know?
Doha,
Qatar.
Qatar.
It is happened in Qatar.
Yeah.
In Qatar, when it happened,
2022 November.
yeah, 2022 happened. Just a minute. Some this what they Bhuvana. I will connect with everyone on this session ends and clarify all your doubts that you are having regarding the certification. Okay. Okay. That Bhuvana madam is our admin and related certificates and other things. She will explain you. Okay. That is she has mentioned in the WhatsApp group. Sorry, in a chat box. Sorry, in chat box he told. So that is what. Good. So this is how the hybrid one approach I tell you. That I told you FIBA World Cup. It happened in Qatar. When it is done, I mean, it is going to happen. Then they want to develop the infrastructure because lot of these passengers and visitors will come throughout the world. So that present airport and all things are not enough to accommodate that flush of the visitors. So they want to develop first about the airport, for example. And for the airport development, they follow the hybrid approach. In the hybrid approach, what they did is the permanent structures like buildings and sheds and other structures, are the runway and other things, they followed based on the predictive approach. They followed about the predictive approach. And for the visiting the boarding counters, the security counters, are the these means arrival and departure counters. There the lot of changes are required. Always Indian may not be required, but during the World Cup, lot of changes are required. Lot of visitors are there, so n number of counters are required. But after that, they need not be maintained those things, because maintaining those counters like security counters or the boarding counters or the arrival and departure counters, these things maintaining is very costly, because the lighting, ACs and securities, many things you have to maintain, very costly. So these are required only during that World Cup period, and then after not required. So therefore, what they did is they adopted with a modular approach. In the modular approach, that is flexible approach, whenever they want, they can put in. Whenever not required, they keep a part somewhere else. So not required, they stop it. Means that is where is the flexible approach they adopted for these counters and all things. But permanent structures they did with the predictive approach. So both the combination of the approaches are there. So therefore, they followed the hybrid approach. One more example I'll tell you. Maybe you are into the software and related companies, you can easily understand. One more example is about the bank automation. In the bank automation, bankers are required for the automation of their systems. And for that, the development of the software is very essential. New software you have to develop. And also the software to work in the system, you require the hardware requirements also. Hardware requirement that includes about the servers, that includes about the LAN connections, the cable networks, and about the laptops, desktops, and printers, many other infrastructure also have to develop. For the software development, it is very it is very approachable, it is adaptable about the agile life cycle. So for the software development, you are adopting the agile approach. Whereas for the procurement of these hardware requirements like, for example, I told you servers, the LAN connections, cable connections, or the printers, laptops, and desktops, and all these things. These are hardware related, and you have to follow certain procedure to follow. The procedures are like, first you have to decide about the scope. For example, laptop you are purchasing. First you have to decide the configuration of the laptops, the branding of the laptops, and then you have to going with the floating of your tenders, the procurement procedure, floating of the tenders, and you are receiving the quotations, and based on the quotations you are making the comparative statement, then you are making the negotiations. After the negotiation, you are getting the approval internally for placing of the contract or the purchase order. Then based on the purchase order, the vendors are supplying, and when they supply, you receive the material and they making the inspection. After the inspection, you are making the payment. So here you are following a very step-by-step, a rigid approach you are following. That is about the predictive lifecycle waterfall approach. Very rigidly, step-by-step, a systematic approach you are following. So this is a hybrid approach. This is a predictive approach. So here, some part of the project you are doing as per the predictive lifecycle approach, and some part of the project you are doing as per the agile. The software is based on the agile. The procurement part of the hardware requirements, you are following the predictive approach. So both are combined in one project. It's called a hybrid project. Is it clear, sir? Understood? Any doubt? Yes, sir.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, good.